I recommend you all the time. I recommend StoryOrigin all the time to my clients because it's got so many great tools, especially for authors that are starting out and they don't know, where they can go to get like a newsletter swap or how to get reviewers for their books. So I am definitely a fan of your website.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm curious, when did you first join StoryOrigin, and also how long have you been doing the publicity side of things for authors?
I think I've been on I know it's been over a year. I think it might be getting close to 2 years, but I'm not sure exactly what date, but it's been a while. I've been on there for a good while now. As far as doing all my publishing stuff, I started out doing like book covers and things in 2015. And then by 2016, I incorporated and opened my publishing house, and then kind of just started branching out into everything. I'm one of those people that I learn by watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. And I always try to find a new skill every year to learn. And so over the years, I kind of just picked up more and more things so I can basically, do everything that I need to do for my own books and to help other people. So
makes sense. So you were doing some of the stuff that you might do on StoryOrigin before StoryOrigin was around, or before you ever started using it.
Yes. So do you want to introduce yourself first to everybody?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So my name is Evan Gao, and I'm the indie developer behind StoryOrigin, which is a marketing tool and community for self-published authors or traditionally published authors that are working to cross-promote their books, either their reader magnets to build their mailing list, to get more reviews, or to send more people to their sales page. So, Courtney?
I run a publishing house called Fiction Atlas Press, but I also do lots of publicity for authors that I don't publish. I mostly work with like author services. I pretty much anything that goes into publishing, I do. I do editing, I do formatting, I do graphic design, animated ads, BookBub ads. I help people do newsletter swaps. Trying to think anything else. Like I design WordPress websites. So anything that you need for author, anything, or producing or promoting a book, I do that at Fiction Atlas.
I guess, what are some of the key things when it comes to marketing that you would recommend that an author do? That's, let's say someone who's new to marketing.
The first thing you want to do is identify your audience. You have to know what sort of audience that you're going to be promoting to. If you're trying to do too wide of an audience, you're going to get, maybe some people who read multiple genres, but a lot of people stick to like 2 or 3 genres. And those are the people that you want to make sure that you're targeting. And like someone who reads Christian Amish fiction or something like that, they're not going to probably be into erotica or maybe something with a lot of fantasy elements, because there's just 2 different types of people. So you want to make sure that you're targeting the right people. And the way that I try to tell my authors to do that is think of books that are already published by traditionally published authors and find out, who's reading them. Like if your book is more like Lord of the Rings, or if you think that some of your characters are like Cassandra Clare's characters in her books, you want to find similar authors and kind of use them to target with your ads, and look at what they're doing on their own platforms and see what reaches those types of readers. So it's a lot of follow by example.
So figuring out their audience would be the first step. I think that makes a ton of sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know who your audience is, then you're going to waste a whole lot of money advertising to people that aren't going to be interested in your work. What are the usual channels that you recommend that authors who are just starting out do? How are they going to market their books when they're just starting out?
I find that social media is probably the easiest way. It's most everything's free, and it's, most people have at least one social media page somewhere, be it on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest. They can usually pick at least one that they're good at, and they are already familiar with how to use it. And so Facebook's usually the easiest. And I tell them, go ahead and make sure you have a Facebook author page. And it's never too early to start marketing. A lot of people are like, should I write my book first? And should I do this? And should I do this first? And I say that it's always good to just go ahead and start talking about your book. Even if it's not written yet, go ahead and, if you have, have your page and talk about your writing process. Talk about how you're naming your characters. There's always little things that you can share with your audience, even if your book's not there yet, and that kind of builds anticipation, and these people want to find out more, and they'll stick around. So definitely social media. And then I also say that you should probably have a website at least, and when you're published you need a website so people can find you. It's a hub where they can find all your social media, they can find your author bio, so it's just a place that becomes yours, and nobody else can really take it away from you. Like your social media can get shut down.
Right.
Your website is something that's more your own thing.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. This is one of the reasons that I built StoryOrigin a lot around authors cross-promoting each other through their mailing lists, because that mailing list is something that you own, and it's a direct line of communication to your readers, as opposed to, like you were saying, if you have a Facebook page, it could get shut down. You're on Facebook's platform, and they, can do that anytime. Or, the other thing is, Facebook changes their algorithms about how frequently they show your posts to people. And, used to be that when you had people who liked your Facebook page, basically everyone that liked your Facebook page would see the posts that you posted. And, nowadays, I think people are happy if they get 3% of people to see their Facebook posts without having to pay to boost their posts, right? So
exactly, it's kind of very pay to play on there.
Yeah, for sure. But I do think that Facebook is like a very easy place to just get started dabbling in, like figuring out and getting comfortable with exposing yourself to sort of the public and doing that marketing, because I know it's an uncomfortable experience for most people at the start to start actively, sharing opinions or, fun stories or what have you. So yeah, I definitely think that can be a great way to get started, getting comfortable with that. I do think that it makes sense once you do get comfortable with that to build your own platform that you're more in control of, like your website or like your newsletter.
I definitely do, yeah.
Yeah. Is that sort of the second step that you would say, so someone identifies their audience, next they, dabble, they start dabbling in marketing, getting comfortable putting themselves out there. And then would you say that the next step is, start building your own platform via your website and newsletter, or what would you say is the next step from dabbling in social media?
I think, yes, building your own website, and especially, like you said, newsletter. A lot of authors are not comfortable with newsletters, and I feel like I'm always trying to prod them towards it because it's such a useful tool. And it's, like you said, another way that you own the information, and you own the way that you talk to these people and interact with them. And a lot of were like, I don't know what to put in a newsletter, and I don't know if anybody will listen to me or anybody will be interested or if anybody will buy anything. And I'll try to tell them, a newsletter is not just a place to promote your books to people. You have to build a genuine relationship with them and ask questions and try to get them more engaged with your newsletter and know you as a person. Because it's not, if you're just sending out, please buy my book, here's a sale, buy my book. They're going to get bored after a while because they see so many ads, especially today. Like a few years ago, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, we were not so bombarded by ads every day, but now they're on YouTube, they're on our phones, they're everywhere we go. There's an advertisement for something. So when they open a newsletter and they say nothing but ads, they're just it's just gonna mix in with everything else that they've seen, and they're not gonna be interested. So you try to figure out like what their interests are. I like to do like little polls in mine, and I use that as like data for what I'm going to do, like what I'm going to write. Like I've done one before, like what's your favorite fantasy weapon? And I give them 4 different magical weapons, and whichever one, got the most, I know, well, my readers like that. So maybe I'll have, like, say they wanted an enchanted bow. Maybe my readers, I'll have an enchanted bow in my next story. So using your data to actually be fun and to plan ahead is a great way to use your newsletter. And I think people underestimate the value that a newsletter can give you,
Yeah.
But definitely newsletters are awesome. Building your author website, you can do a lot of cool stuff there. You can do quizzes that they can take to see which one of your characters there are. So there's a lot of customizations that you just can't really do on Facebook sometimes, because all you can really do is leave a link there. It's just more of a portal to go to other places. So
Right.
once you have your own platform, you can keep them there. And the longer you keep them there, the more they're going to learn about you, the more they're going to learn about your books, and the more they're going to connect with you as a person. And that's what marketing is all about, is connecting with either the story or the author.
One of the things that you were mentioning there is a lot of people are hesitant to start a newsletter because they're not sure that they're totally comfortable with that idea of like, constantly trying to promote their books to their audience or anything. I would say, going back to your earlier point, maybe starting with something like Facebook gets you comfortable with that concept of like talking about yourself, sharing stories, building a rapport with your readers, because all of that directly translate into how you write your newsletters and how you sort of share about yourself. You are on StoryOrigin. Do you get my newsletters?
Yes, I do get your newsletters. I love like all of the case studies, how they're using StoryOrigin and how it's working out for them. I love hearing those stories, and some of them even give me ideas for other ways that I can use it. And I feel like you're always expanding over there. There's always some new tool that I can use, or I can, tell my clients to use. When did you get the idea for StoryOrigin, and how long ago was that you set out to do that?
The idea goes back maybe even over 4 years ago. I was originally wanting to pursue my interest in writing. I used to write short stories back in high school, and then got really interested in entrepreneurship and technology. And then so I want to combine those passions. And then I went and I talked to some authors about, hey, what are you doing? Here's this idea that I had. And essentially the reaction what I got was, oh, that's not interesting, but here's these 8 different tools that I use in 3 different spreadsheets, and I'm using Google Forms and Facebook and, this whole jumbled mess of tools to do cross promotions and marketing and manage my newsletter and do all these different things. I was like, oh, that sounds like a huge pain. That makes a lot more sense. So let me do something there. And then originally I released StoryOrigin. All you could do was put up a reader magnet landing page, and you could integrate with MailChimp or MailerLite. You couldn't do group promotions. You couldn't do newsletter swaps. You didn't have universal book links or review copies or direct downloads or promote audiobook codes. So all of those things are things that I added to StoryOrigin after the very initial launch, which was just like, I just need to get something out here with like the most minimal set of useful features. And then I'll just keep expanding that from there, because if I waited to, have the one-stop shop before launching, then, I would still be working on it. And I won't get all of this great, useful feedback from authors when I release a new feature that it would be great if, this piece of information could be displayed over here, or, why can't I add something this way? So yeah, sort of doing that iterative development, in the open is super helpful and makes it better, I think, for everyone. But yeah, so I started with the idea quite a while ago. But I think if I had told people I was going to build a one-stop shop that's going to do the things that you do with your 8 different tools and your 3 different spreadsheets, people probably would have said I was smoking something. But now it's a reality. Yeah. So it's not. I'm not as crazy as I sound
It's
anymore.
nice.
Yeah.
No, it's nice though to have everything in one place. When somebody asks me for something, I'm like, well, you can go to StoryOrigin for that. Well, what about this? We can go to StoryOrigin for that too.
Yeah.
You've got the word tracker and all kinds of useful features that authors use every single day. So, and I love that you have everything kind of genre targeted also, where you can put in genre filters.
Right.
Because again, that genre targeting is so important. That's one thing people like. That's my mantra. When everybody asks me about marketing, I was like, make sure you know your genre, make sure you know who your audience are, because I see so many people joining like multiple author things, and they wonder why they don't work for them, or why they're getting all romance people, or why they're getting all fantasy people when that's not their genre. And I was like, that's why you have to target and make sure that you're reaching the right people, and then you'll get more people engaged with you. But I love just especially like the review tool and the reader magnet and the group giveaways and things like that. I recommend those all the time. I'm actually running one right now for Anti-Hero. So it's a great tool. I love that you have put everything in there and that you keep expanding it. I think that's similar to what I did with Fiction Atlas, because I only started out with covers and editing, and then now we kind of do everything. So
Right.
like you said, it's best to kind of do something small at first and then expand. And I feel like I hear about StoryOrigin every day from other people too. So it's not just me and it's not just Joe that are your fans. You're getting lots of fans of StoryOrigin, and a lot of authors are speaking about you with word of mouth, which I think is great. Do you feel like you have to use any paid advertisements or anything to get StoryOrigin out there, or are you mostly relying on word of mouth?
No, I'm totally reliant on word of mouth. So I don't do really any advertising for StoryOrigin at all. It's totally reliant on authors sort of sharing the word, and going sort of behind the scenes of like, why was the first thing that you built like the reader magnets, and then the next thing I released was like the group promotions for giveaways. Those are things where authors are cross-promoting and working together. And so then StoryOrigin naturally becomes one of these things that you share with other authors as you're trying to get, more authors into a cross-promotion. So that sort of let me just focus purely on building the product and then like handling the customer service side of things. And then the authors that are on StoryOrigin are really sort of my marketing team, because they're running all these cross promotions and working together. So yeah, that's sort of why I went the direction that I did in sort of how I've prioritized things. So that's been super helpful. I mean, eventually I'm sure that I will get into doing some paid advertising, but right now I'm totally reliant on word of mouth. So I'm always trying to do the best job I can.
I think it's great that it kind of takes kind of a weight off your shoulders to not have to worry so much about doing paid advertisement, because I don't really do any advertisement for my business either. I just rely on word of mouth. And I also do, besides doing one-on-one author marketing, I do the group marketing where we do, we'll pick a topic. Like I did a Harry Potter builder. We do newsletter builders. We do social media builders to get people more Facebook followers and stuff. So we also do those as group giveaways. So everybody's sharing from one page. It gets lots of people going to my author website, because I also run them off my author website.
Right.
So that helps get my stuff out there. And so it's just a lot of people that have a good experience. That's one thing I think is really important. You were talking about customer relations, and you do a great job of keeping authors happy over there. And when you provide value to authors and when you treat them right, they're going to spread the word about you and tell their friends. And so I think being able to just rely on the authors giving you good reviews and talking about the good work that you do it's just a relief to not have to worry about begging people to sign up for things. So
yeah, no, and that's one of the reasons that I like to run the newsletter as well. As it keeps sort of StoryOrigin, while I develop those features, it keeps StoryOrigin at the top of mind for, okay, I need to go do this other thing. Oh, well, I just saw a case study about how this person got reviews, like in the newsletter that Evan sent. Like, let me go check out StoryOrigin first, or whatever. I think that you can bring that same concept. It translates. I think everything that we're talking about also translates to author newsletters when you're sending stuff out to readers. Like, you want to stay on top of your readers' minds. If you only send a newsletter once every 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and you're not staying at the top of your readers' minds, when you have that new release and you say, hey, check out my new book, if you haven't kept up with them, they might be not even remember that they ever read one of your previous books before, right? Especially voracious readers, which end up, reading, dozens of books, in the course of, a couple of months. So if you want to stay on top of your readers' minds and make sure, like, when you have a new release, they remember you, you can engage with them more frequently, once every couple of weeks, or, sort of at a minimum. I think, generally speaking, at least once a month is a good range. But after that, you start to become so far apart that they are more likely to forget. So engaging with your audience is definitely important. And that's, what I do through my newsletter. I think that's a really key part of what authors do through their newsletters. And I like the way that you were saying that you also include questionnaires in your newsletter to figure out what your readers are interested in, because that sort of loops back to your first point that we talked about, which is the first step is identifying your audience. Well, once you've got your audience, then you can actually, not only identify, but sort of understand more, what is it that they're looking for? What do they want to get out of a story? What kinds of weapons do they want to see? Like, what excites them? But also, what other kinds of things might interest them in terms of, like villains or, setting or, characters, whatever have you.
What led you to the audiobook codes? Is it because you feel like audiobooks are something that authors are getting more into this time of, audiobooks used to be only for traditionally published authors, and now I think a lot more indies are getting into it. So is that the reason that you decided to do audiobook codes?
The reason that I decided to do audiobook codes, kind of, it's hard to say exactly what it is, right? Like, part of it is that audiobooks are one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing segment. There was like a little bit of slowdown with like coronavirus, so people stopped commuting, and then like audiobook sales like dipped a little bit, whatever. But overall, they are the fastest growing segment of sort of the publishing market. And so a lot of authors are getting into them. And so I kept hearing more about authors, you get these codes from ACX, that you can give out to listeners. They can redeem the code and then listen to your audiobook for free, either via, if you got them from ACX, then they'll redeem them on Audible. If you got them from Findaway, then listeners can redeem them on Authors Direct, which is Findaway's platform for audiobook listeners. And so you get these codes that you can give out, but you have a limited number of them, and they are super valuable to you because it's a lot more difficult to get someone in audio download than to give them just an ebook file that you send to them via email or whatever have you, which, authors were doing before using tools like StoryOrigin. So these promo codes were super, super important. But distributing them to listeners and, tracking whether or not people actually used them to redeem the audiobook and then would leave a review was a pain for a lot of authors. Like, I was told by several authors, like, I spend hours like putting stuff into like spreadsheets and trying to check and make sure that the people that I give these codes out to, because I want to get reviews with these codes because I have a limited number of them. And like, they're not really worth anything to me besides that. It used to be that ACX would pay you whenever you gave some of those codes out. They no longer do that. So really the only value of those codes now is if you can get reviews out of them. And so StoryOrigin's audio promo code distribution feature is totally focused around helping authors get requests from listeners who want to listen to and then review the book. And then you as a author get to see when someone requests it, okay, how frequently have they left reviews on Audible or Goodreads or Amazon in the past? And then if they've requested let's say 10 promo codes from StoryOrigin, they've been approved for 10, and they only left reviews for 2 out of those 10, this person's probably not going to leave a review if I give them a promo code. So StoryOrigin gives you that completion percentage for whether or not someone's actually, listening and then reviewing the books. So authors were doing all this manually through their own spreadsheets and everything. So it's really came from both it being like a growing segment and then also just hearing more about author pains. And I'm super open. So people will send feature requests to me and like, hey, I don't know what you can do here, but this is a pain. And so, yeah, that's sort of why I built the audio promo code distribution feature.
That is a really good idea. I did not even think about how frustrating it is to, because I don't have audiobooks yet. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but I don't have any audiobooks of my own books yet. But I didn't even think about all of the tracking that you have to do to see, if who you've given it to. There's probably a lot of people that are doing it in Messenger and having to go back through their messages and stuff. So having it all together is a super awesome idea. And I'll probably end up going on there later and finding some audiobooks to review, because I do audiobooks mostly because I'm so busy. I usually read somewhere between 100 and 150 books a year, but half the time now it has to be audiobooks because I'm always so busy, with the kids. Right now we've got virtual learning, so that's kind of like an all-day thing. And so audiobooks help me a lot when I'm making up a giveaway or I'm doing some sort of promotion online. I can listen to it while all that's going on. So for me, audiobooks have actually probably upticked during the pandemic, but I think it's an awesome feature that you've got. Are there any new features that you have coming out right now that you're excited about? Or
there's a couple of features that I might build. I'm certainly going to be adding features, but I'm not sure which direction I want to go quite yet. And so a lot of the stuff that I've been adding over the past few weeks has just been increasing usability of the various features that are already there. Because I want each feature in StoryOrigin to sort of be like the best in class feature. Like StoryOrigin is the best for X, Y, and Z, not just like it's mediocre at X, Y, and Z, and so use it because you can do all the things there. I want it to be like the best at each individual thing. So I've been just upgrading a lot of the existing features. And then, one of the things is I've been adding a lot more integrations with various different email service providers. So, because, StoryOrigin will automatically integrate with your email service provider. So if you get like a sign up to your reader magnet and they want to join your mailing list, you can just have that reader contact info sent directly to whatever email service provider you want to use. And hopefully StoryOrigin will have it covered. Otherwise, you can always just like download it as a CSV through StoryOrigin, upload it to an email service provider. But that's more time consuming, and I want to make things simple and easy for people. So I'm curious, what are your, when you're organizing these group promotions, what are some of your best practices that you would tell other people for if they wanted to organize their own group promotions, or if they are a participant in a group promotion? Okay. And maybe you could explain a little bit about what a group promotion is too.
Okay. A group promotion is when we get a group of authors, usually 10 to 20 authors together, and we pool our resources to build on a certain platform. Like if we're building a newsletter, we're building subscribers, we're building Facebook fans, people in our Facebook reader groups, we do Amazon, BookBub, all these are important platforms for authors. So we're building more followers on those. But again, here I go back to genre targeting. When we pick out prizes for these, because what we're basically doing is setting up a giveaway with all of these authors in it. So we want something, if we're doing all urban fantasy authors, maybe we'll do a Dresden Files giveaway and have like Dresden Files books and merchandise like posters. Sometimes we do mugs. We've done board games, just whatever would appeal to that certain audience of people who like Jim Butcher and who like his books. Or if we're doing fantasy romance, we do something with like Fae in it. We'd probably do Holly Black or some traditionally published author that everyone knows. And a lot of people ask me, well, why don't you do indie authors for the prizes? And the reason that I don't do indie authors for the prizes is because, again, we're talking about comparable authors. And not everyone knows indies. And some indies are prolific, but there are a lot of indies that people don't know, and they're less likely to take a chance on authors that they don't know. But if they already know that they like books like that Holly Black writes, then they're more likely to take a chance on the authors that are in that giveaway. So you're wanting to find the comparable authors. So that's what we do. We put all those books up in a nice graphic, and all the little merchandises and things we do. I do Funko Pops a lot because I'm a Funko Pop collector. I've got a whole bunch of them, and a lot of people like them. So they've got some for almost every fandom that's out there. So it's just a cute and pretty cheap way to put some stuff in there. So after we've gathered all the prizes, I make a graphic that has the books and all the merchandise in it, and then I will put this together in a giveaway. Usually we use something called Raffle Press. You can also use Gleam. There's Rafflecopter. There's King Sumo. There's a whole bunch of different giveaway softwares out there that will work either on the giveaway software's website, or you can put them as a WordPress plugin, or they've got some that are embeddable. There's all kinds of options for that out there. But usually I use Raffle Press because I do use WordPress most of the time for everything. And once we put that together, all the readers that see that graphic and they see those books that they already want and that merchandise that they already want, they will enter the giveaway, and they will get points for following the participating authors on Facebook, or joining their newsletter, or following them on BookBub. And once they do these actions, they get entry points. The more entry points that they get, the more likely it is that the giveaway software at the end of the giveaway is going to choose them as the winner. And so if they get chosen as the winner, I contact them via email and send their prizes out to them to their mailing address. And I've been doing this for about almost 3 years now. We've had a lot of great winners. One thing, if you are choosing to do your own giveaway, or if you are participating in a giveaway, I try to make sure, like I said, doing the genre targeted prizes. I rarely ever do gift cards, mostly because gift cards have a lot of people that are freebie seekers, people that only they're sweepers is what they call themselves. They just go through and they enter any contest that they want just to get, an Amazon gift card or something, or an iPad or something that they can sell or whatever. We want people that actually are interested in reading. So sometimes I will use Facebook ads for those giveaways and target specifically people who own Kindles or who read a certain author or something like that, so that you're making sure that you're, again, getting genre targeted results and people are actually readers. And I think that's one of the reasons why some of our giveaways tend to have really good results, is because we're getting actual readers who are interested in, what the actual authors that have signed up are going to be offering them when they send their information to them, or when they are following their Facebook page and they see that there's something that's like Lord of the Rings, and they love Lord of the Rings, but this person's writing about dragons and fantasy. Well, maybe I'll check that out. So basically, make sure that the person that you're doing your giveaway with, if you're a participant, is reputable, and that they have a history of doing these things. And there's also scammers out there, unfortunately. Try to make sure that you're genre targeted to your specific genre. Make sure that the prizes are actually going to get to the winners. And good graphics. Good graphics are really important, because people are like really visually focused. So if something looks appealing to their eye, they're going to click on it. So
yeah. And when you're running your own group promotions on your website, do you require the participants in that group promotion to share the links for it, and everyone is sort of cross promoting it, or do you maintain your own mailing list, and that is specific to these or something?
Well, I do both. I have my own newsletters that have this, and I'm actually developing a new one called FAB, which is Fiction Atlas Book Bargains. So we're doing book bargains every day that are on sale. We're having right now we're in a free beta. So if authors have a book that's 99 cents, or a book that's free, or a book that's any discount from what it normally is, they can send it and book an appointment with us, and we just share it on our Facebook page and our Twitter for now. But we also have a mailing list that we're getting started. So it's going to start going out in that mailing list. We'll be putting our giveaways in that mailing list. Then I also put them in my own personal author newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks. And then all the authors promise to, share it in their newsletter. If they don't have a newsletter, they just share it a little bit extra on social media, because I still can't get some people to get a newsletter, even though I've told them how important it is. But, so sharing on social media is also important. So they share a couple times on social media. It's really, I provide the link, what to say, if they need examples of what to say, and the graphics. So all they really have to do is take like 2 minutes to tweet it out or something. So it's not really time consuming for the person that's participating. But we cross promote that way. And because we're cross promoting with like authors, like if we have a bunch of fantasy authors signed up, we're also reaching each other's readers. So you're reaching new readers that way.
And then on StoryOrigin, the group promotions don't really have that sweepstakes element to it. So if you're running a quote giveaway group promotion on StoryOrigin, essentially you have that landing page that has everyone's books on it, just like I'm sure they will be on your website, right? But on StoryOrigin, there's no like overall prize for the group promotion. So when people come to that landing page, they can see all of the books listed. And if they're reader magnets are essentially something that an author will give away for free. Usually it's a 10 to 20,000 word short story prequel to their book or series. And there are reasons that authors usually choose like that specific thing because it's like a good lead in, it's not too long. So the read-through rate's going to be higher. It hooks into, the follow-up story. So hopefully like the buy-through is increased as well. You give those away to free when someone signs up to your mailing list. So when you have a giveaway group promotion on StoryOrigin, people come and they'll click on your reader magnet. And then if they want that book, they sign up to your mailing list individually just to get that single individual book. So they're not signing up to necessarily 20 authors mailing lists in that group promotion. There's no real incentive for them to sign up to so many authors mailing lists unless they really want every single one of those authors reader magnets. So there is these two different ways that you might go about getting readers. If you're doing a sweepstakes where you've got a prize, that's why it's especially important that you make sure that you're targeting what that prize is based on a particular genre, because otherwise you're just going to get those freebie seekers like you were talking about that really just want, an Amazon gift card. They don't actually care about any of the books or any of the authors that are in that group promotion versus, a group promotion like a giveaway on StoryOrigin, since authors are getting that specific reader magnet specifically from you to join your mailing list. It's a little bit more automatically targeted, but I would say that it's still valuable, even if you're like joining or running group promotions on StoryOrigin, that you focus on ones that are targeted to your audience. Because when you're cross promoting with other authors, you want to make sure that the readers that are going to visit that landing page with everyone's books on it are readers that are going to be interested in your genre and are going to be interested in your work. Otherwise, you can get, people subscribing to your mailing list to get what they thought was a cozy romance, but actually you write erotica and your cover didn't really convey that necessarily correctly or something like that. And then you've got people who are on your mailing list that maybe don't really actually want to be there. And, it costs a relatively negligible amount of money to have an additional subscriber on your mailing list. But still, it's very important to make sure that you're maintaining a mailing list of people who are actually interested in reading and buying your work. Otherwise, it can get expensive over time if you've got, like tens of thousands of people that aren't really interested in your work, but are still on your mailing list. Then I'm curious, what would you say is a reason for authors to join these group promotions other than the opportunity to build their mailing list or get more followers on BookBub or Facebook or anything like that? Like, are there other benefits to joining these sorts of group promotions?
I think there are, as far as networking with other authors, because we're all working together. So sometimes it's not completely direct, but we're all in the same builder group to find these different sort of promotions that I do. So we kind of all get it's. I run. Some people like run really formal business kind of things. I kind of like try to be more playful. I post a lot of GIFs and I ask people in there, what do you want to do next? And I let them vote on prizes and things like that because I want it to be all more of a group collaboration than per se just something that I slap together and I'm like, here it is. If you want to sign up, sign up. I want them to be interested in it. I want it to be something that they need. So the authors do interact there, especially in the comments and stuff. And we do book fair sometimes, and they all promote that one landing page for that, and they're all kind of talking together about that. So there is the author networking going on. So it's kind of like a little community, and we do network in there a little bit. I think the main takeaway is probably getting the new followers, but as like a side dish, you have the networking going on. So.
Yeah, I think that's definitely important. You're building your network as an author with other authors that are in your genre, because these people might serve as potential critique partners for you someday. If you want to do like a swap beta copies with one another, like knowing other authors in your genre that are at roughly your same stage and that you've interacted with through group promotions or through newsletter swaps, at least provides you some idea of, okay, this person is like a stand-up person, like they uphold their end of the bargain when it comes to like cross promotions. They're easy to communicate with, like, hey, maybe this person would make like for a good critique partner, or hey, maybe I just want to like have a coffee chat with them about like what they see happening within our genre and where they see things going, and then how can we how can we bounce ideas back and forth in that way? So I think that networking side of things is definitely important. The other thing that I had in mind while you're talking was, having those group promotions when you have a newsletter and you are joining, either sweepstakes or giveaways or what have you. You're giving your audience to your newsletter a reason to open your newsletter every time, because they're going and they're seeing, oh, okay, like I might go join a raffle, or I might, go find some other free books and learn about new authors. So becoming that source of recommendations to your audience also puts you in a position where, if you become their recommender, their source of information, then they're going to keep opening your newsletter, or they're going to be more, they're going to be encouraged to continue to open your newsletter. Versus if you're only ever sending out, updates and there's nothing ever really for them to click on, or they're not like getting, necessarily information out of it. You might have a rapport with them, but they might not have a reason to open your newsletter. So doing those sorts of group promotions or newsletter swaps gives people a reason to open. And if they're not opening, you got to have that before you can have, before you can build a rapport with them, or before you can sort of, sell them on, okay, check out the next book in my series that just came out, what have you. So
exactly, you have to provide value to them. If you're not providing value, then they're, like you said, they're not going to open. And if they don't open, they're not going to hear about your stuff either. And you want it to be a mix of things that you're doing and things that you're doing for other authors. And a lot of people, I don't want to recommend other authors, or I don't want to do anything in a group with other authors, but other authors are not your competition. They're really, really a great, I don't want to call them a tool because that sounds kind of mean, but they're a great competition. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's there you go. It's nice to be able to.
And you're
exactly. And you can be friends with other authors and recommend their books. And I even review other authors' books. And I've got a review section in mind that I do. Sometimes they're not always indie authors. Sometimes they're traditional. But I do, like the last 4 books that I read, I put my Goodreads review in there. And I just like to build those relationships with other authors, because you can rely on them as like your support network. And I think that the readers actually like to see that going on, that see that people are not having such competition with each other, and that they're friendly towards one another. I think that's just something that they like to see.
I think one thing that is important about what you mentioned there is like in terms of co-opetition, like, you guys are cooperating. I think one area where it does get a little bit more like competition-y is when you're talking about like nonfiction, like weight loss or something, books where, you want to sort of own that audience because you want to upsell them on training or coaching or courses or something like that. But when it comes to fiction, for the most part, like you were saying, you read about 150 books a year or so. Like there's, if you recommend another book to me, it's like I still have time to go and read your books because I'm, reading so many. It's not like me going and reading another book means that I can't still go and read yours later when it comes out. You had mentioned reviews though. Do you use the review copies feature on StoryOrigin, or do you use your own process for managing reviews?
I use both StoryOrigin and Booksprout. I use both of those because I want to get as many reviews as possible.
Sure.
I tried using an ARC team, like a Facebook ARC team, but I ended up just turning that into a street team because it's a lot easier to get somebody to commit to sharing my ad, or going and picking up a free copy of my book, or sharing that I've got a sale going on than it is to get someone to read and review early and post a review here and post a review there, and keep up with when you can post on there, because on Amazon you can't post until release day unless you got a paperback up. So it makes it a little harder to keep track of all that stuff, which is one thing that I love about StoryOrigin, is that I can see, who's picked it up. And I love the reputation. You can tell, if they're doing good, if they're actually reviewing. I do recommend it a lot to my clients because it's a free way to do that and to organize it, put it all together. And they don't have to struggle with trying to come up with an ARC team on Facebook and trying to message a million people and keep up with all of it in a spreadsheet or through their messenger or however they would normally do it. So I do think it's a great and very useful tool.
How do you use StoryOrigin when you are trying to build reviews on a book? Do you only do it for, I guess first is, do you only do it for your pre-publication books, or do you also use the review copies feature for post-publication books as well?
I'd actually do it for both, and I recommend it for both, especially if I'm working with an author that might not have gotten off to the best start when they launched their book and they didn't know what they were quite what they were doing yet, because they were new to it and they didn't know who to reach out to. They hadn't read enough or done enough. So I say, this is one way we can restart this. We can get you some more reviews, get some more people recommending it. And they're like, well, I don't know where to find reviewers. I'm like, well, you can go to StoryOrigin and they've got people who are ready and waiting, to read your book, and people who already like your genre, and they're going to, you can keep track of it here. It's an easy process for them to only go to one place instead of having, especially a lot of them are more technically challenged that don't have such good launches. And so having it all in one place for them is a lot easier for them to manage.
StoryOrigin, there is a sort of public side for the review copies where any group promotions for review copies are listed. So readers who want to come back to StoryOrigin can go to that list of group promotions and see what review copies are available. But unless you've joined a group promotion, just posting your review copy on StoryOrigin won't really get you anywhere per se, because StoryOrigin is not going to send it out anywhere. So I guess, how do you, when you put a new review copy up, are you promoting it to your own mailing list, or are you doing newsletter swaps with it, or are you joining group promotions with it? What's your sort of route?
I usually just put it in my newsletter and say, hey guys, this publication is coming up soon, and if you would like to read it, earlier than the general public, you can pick it up here. All you have to do is click this link, and you'll get a review copy. And if you'll leave a review, that'll really help the book. And a lot of times I'll do it in my newsletter, but then they'll go on to Facebook, and there's about, I think, 10 different Facebook groups I'm in that are specifically for helping people get reviews. So I'll also post it there, because they've got some of them set up where you have to message back and forth, but it's a lot easier if I can say, well, here's the link if you'd like to try it. I also
Right.
have a blogger list, newsletter list, because I do a lot of promotion for other authors for when they have arcs out. So I usually say, if you'll get me a StoryOrigin link, I can send it to my blogger list. So I send it to bloggers also with that list. And it's separate from my actual author newsletter.
Got it.
And so I haven't really tried very much of doing that in like the giveaways on there. Mostly when I do something on there, I do the sales page and do like a 99-cent sale or something like that. And the one we've got going on right now, I'm really surprised we've got almost 100 books in it already, and it's not even ready to start yet. So I was like, yay, this is good.
Awesome.
But I love those because it's so easy to go in and accept people and see if they fit your criteria and everything. So
yeah, and I guess one of the things is if you're like organizing those group promotions on StoryOrigin, then you get, you can see that all the participants get their own tracking link, and then you as the organizer can see how many times they've shared it or how many clicks they're sending to it. And then you can like go, if they've applied and they've got like what's called a posted mailing list on StoryOrigin, then you can see in like how many clicks have they sent to past newsletter swaps or group promotions through StoryOrigin. So before accepting them, I have that transparency of like, is this person that sort of upholds their end when they're joining cross promotions and stuff like that. I think that just sending your review copies to your own list makes a ton of sense because it's going to be super targeted. I do think that authors have definitely seen success in cross promoting their review copies on StoryOrigin through the newsletter swaps feature and through group promotions as well. But if you've got your own mailing list and you get all the requests that you need through that, then like that's awesome. In your email welcome sequence, I assume that you have one. What strategies do you have there? Do you typically include like a link to request like like a review copy of your book in there, or do you do anything to try to filter people from just like being just a subscriber into your street team or something like that?
Well, at the bottom of every one of my emails, I've got a link, actually a graphic with a link to my street team, and it says one of my books is called Forget Me Not, so my street team is called CL Cannon's Unforgettables. But it's just a link at a graphic at the bottom of every newsletter that says, become unforgettable, join my street team for art copies and things like that. So I do go into my street team right before just to see who will, want to do an arc. So sometimes I will share my StoryOrigin link there. But also in my welcome email, I usually, talk about who I am. I've got a picture of me and some of the things that I do, what my newest release is going to be if I've got a pre-order up, what I like to write. And then at the bottom, I've got a thing that says, tell me a little bit about you. I want to know. And if they will, answer me back, if they'll reply with something about them, their favorite book, their favorite color. I don't really care. I just want to know something about them because I want to get to know them as a person and what they will like. Then I offer a free short story, and that I actually send that to them myself because I probably do need to set up an automation for that. That's one of those things that's been like on my list, and you're like, I'll get to that, and I haven't yet. But I will send them a short story, and it just kind of gets me to know a little bit about them, and it also helps as far as your newsletter sender reputation, because they have opened something from you and they have also replied to you. So that kind of puts your score up better, and you're more likely to land in their main email instead of in spam or in promotions or something like that. So that's kind of a trick to get them in that main box. So.
Right. Yeah. No, you want to make sure that you're ending up not in their promotions tab. So if you can get them to reply to you, that's definitely awesome. And I do think that I think that not everything always needs to be automated all the times. As much as I am a programmer and want to automate everything all of the time, I do think that like having that interaction with your readers where it's like, hey, shoot me an email, tell me your favorite color or whatever. That's a sort of, interaction that you can't really automate, and also helps you build rapport with your reader. And then if you build, that closer connections with your readers like that, then, if you send them a link to your review copy from there, you've got a different, you're then gathering a different set of people than if you just include the link directly in your welcome sequence that everybody gets, right? Because now instead of getting like a wider berth of people necessarily that might be slightly lesser interested, you're getting people who are maybe more interested in, are building a relationship with you. If you have them apply for your review copy, then you're going to get like a different sort of interaction and potentially different sort of review because you have that personal rapport with them. I think that it makes sense not to always have everything automated necessarily.
I try to do as much automation as I can, but like you said, that might be. I do like replying to them, especially when they tell me like, "Oh, this is my favorite book, and this is why," and then I get to a deep discussion why Samwise Gamgee is like the best literary character ever, and we have this big discussion about it. So it's great.
No, I mean, I love the interactions I get to have with people through my newsletter as well. So, I mean, it can be time consuming sometimes, but it's also a lot of the fun stuff that you don't get to do when you're only locked up working on your own thing and you have like tunnel vision, right?
Yes, it's nice to have that break, that like almost like a mental break that you get to not be so robotic all the time and just be yourself. So I like the fulfillment of helping other people, and I'm sure you do too, or you wouldn't work as hard as you do.
Yes. No, I do love helping people. That is and that's one of the things I like about like the author community in general too, is in tools like StoryOrigin or what you do with building an author community, you're getting a bunch of people together and they're all helping each other out. And it's a community unlike what you normally find on the internet, right? Like, a community where people are looking to help each other build themselves up, right? That's a rare thing. And so it's a lot of fun to be able to like work with other people who have that same mindset too.
I will say that I take every Friday evening off because I go see my dad every Friday, and my dad is like my favorite person in the world. So I go over there and just relax and try not to look at my phone the whole time, even though people are messaging me. And I go over there, play with the kids, and just have a good time until like 12 o'clock that night and come home, try to go to bed instead of work, and then get back up Saturday and start again. So Friday, I guess, is my break.
You have in the indie community in that we're all like these silos almost, and we all have our sort of own businesses, and we don't, we all are focused on doing our own thing, and we all want to provide like the best service, whether that's as like an author and we're replying to readers' emails, or, or you're doing something like Courtney or I, where you're getting, emails from other authors or something like that. It's difficult to break away and get out of that mindset of like, okay, I need to be working 100% of the time and to like relax and do other things. But yeah, I would say that I find time to be human, walking my dog, or hanging out with my wife and her family. And I mean, family time has definitely become a lot more important during this global pandemic. So we're hanging out with my wife's family a ton. So that's been super nice because like trying not to go out and do stuff. And it's so I'm sure a lot of people are struggling with that right now, especially I've seen, statistics about like mental health and wellness are, declining because no one's going out or seeing each other and everyone's social distancing and all this stuff. So, I think finding that time where you can, either, like we've also been doing Zoom calls with our friends from high school or what have you. So that's been really nice too.
Joe's got something on here. Let me see. How's doing what you do for authors made you feel more like you wanted to be an author more, or is it the opposite?
Basically, I when I started StoryOrigin, I had to step away from, I had actually planned to start getting into writing while I was building StoryOrigin, and StoryOrigin just quickly took over 100% of my time. So I didn't have any time to do the writing. I would definitely say I now want to be an author more than I did before, or I'm more into wanting to write, but I have less time even now
Less
than I
time.
did before. So we'll see if I ever get there. But hopefully one of these days, maybe when I've made my billions and billions of dollars and I can relax on my yacht. When I get there, then I'll write. Then I'll get back to writing.
That sounds like a good plan. I think I'll follow that one as well.
Yeah.
I mostly write short stories because of that same reason. Like I've got all these plans for books, but after you do so much for other people and develop these things for other people, you have less and less time to write for yourself. So